Hi everybody, Leslie here. Today I'm sharing with you how you make these lovely sliding puzzle cards. So this one is using small pieces. So I've done a few videos already on these, but this one is using much smaller pieces. So these are 1.5 centimetre square pieces, and I've also shown in this video how you do this die cut inlay technique. I wouldn't actually recommend it on this size. I'd save it for some of the ones that I do with bigger pieces, just because it gets so fiddly when it's this tiny. And if you're already subscribed to my channel and you've seen this card already, I decided that my video was probably a bit too long. So I'm just going to do a bite-sized version, which there's nothing new in this video if you've already watched my great big long video on these cards. So obviously, if you're already subscribed but you don't have the notify bell on, if you hit notify, that will tell you when I do a new upload. So I don't think I'm going to do any more really long videos because I think they've just got too long now. So that's why you might be seeing this one for a second time if you're already subscribed to my channel. So I'm going to stick some chapters in the description so that you can, if you're interested in the die cut inlay technique, you can go and have a look at just that part. Or if you're interested in the puzzle part and the right dimensions and how to make the puzzles smaller, you can go and look at that part. So hopefully it'll be a bit easier to use the video than my great big long ones. So these are cards that stand up, and you can send them in the post. They're pretty flat, even though they've got the puzzle on. They've not got much more dimension than a lot of handmade cards. So yeah, let's have a look at how we make this. So for this next card, I'm going to go right back to the beginning, where this was one of my proof of concepts when I did my first sliding puzzle card video. And these are actually 1.5 centimetre squares. So all the cards I've made so far are 2.5 centimetre squares, which is almost exactly an inch. It's slightly out, but 2.5 centimetres or an inch square. So we're going to go smaller. And I'm going to do it in metric, and I'm going to go metric all the way through. So if you can't work in centimetres, you might want to skip this bit. I get some people don't work in centimetres at all, but we're going to go metric. And we're going to do that because it gives us nice dimensions to get smaller pieces. So even if you don't work in centimetres, I'm going to do some die cut inlay into this lovely die. And this one is a Crafter's Companion one. It is called Peony Frame. And the dimensions of this are, it's about 8 centimetres by about 10.5 centimetres. So I thought that would go onto a 9 by 12 size piece. So if I'm making 1.5 centimetre square pieces, everything needs to kind of be divisible by 1.5. So if you work in 3 centimetres. So I'm going for something that's about 9 by 12. I'm going to stick with some autumnal colours. And I thought, if we do some die cut inlay, I've not done a puzzle yet with die cut inlay. So I've prepared some bits in advance. So I thought we'd do a black frame, and then we do some colouring on craft, and then I think I won't die cut inlay everything. I'm going to fill in any bits that are left, probably with some gilding flake. All I've done to start with is this is some of the Stick It double-sided, and I think I've cut this to, if I'm going for 9 by 13, I want a bit of extra just to play with. So I think I've cut this to 10 by 13 centimetres. So I've grabbed from my scrap. I didn't want really thick card because I want to be able to cut through this. So this is just an envelope that my kid's written to Grandpa on, and we've not sent it. We've sent the card, but we haven't actually put it in the envelope. It's probably gone in an envelope at some point with my card in the post, so we won't post in 3 envelopes. And we're going to stick this onto here, and then we're going to do some die cut inlay with this. So I'm just going to go, this is just another piece of scrap from my scraps bin of craft card. I'm just going to, and this is quite thick card, by the way, so I am just going to go and cut this one out. I've just kept it in the die, and that's because I want to colour on the front of this. So what I've done is, this is the Glad press and seal, which in the UK you can get it. It's not as common in the UK, but you can get it usually on Amazon and places like that. But it's kind of like a low tack sticky. So all I'm doing is using the press and seal just to hold all my pieces together. I've got all my bits on my press and seal so that when I come back to inlay it, I know where all the pieces are supposed to end up. So all I'm going to do is colour the pieces, and I'm going to go for some nice autumnal colours. So making my life easy, I went and got these are my Altenew artist markers, and I just picked one of the sets out, put in the description, but it's the one that's got greys, oranges, greens in it if you've got the Altenew markers. So I just thought I would just do some quick colouring onto here. I've just gone really fast in there. You can see, not been too worried about going over the lines, anything like that, because I'm not using the border. It's going to get popped into this black frame. So it looks pretty good as it is, but it's going to look better, hopefully. So now our next step is to take the backing off here and then inlay all those pieces back into here. So I'm just going to pop you on fast forward, obviously, while I do that, because it's not that interesting to watch. So there we go, there's my image, all die cut inlay, and I've still got sticky obviously all around these edges. So my idea for that was, we're going to use some gilding flake. Now I've got IndigoBlu's Mega Flakes. I pulled out a couple of different colours. This one's Brighton Pear, which might look quite nice with it. And this one is Yorkshire Dale. Now these grow when you open the pots. So this one's in its own big pot. This one, actually, I think I might quite like. There's not a lot of the green on, so I'm thinking the green tones with the coppers in this might be quite nice. Don't blow too hard. And this is why, even though I'm just using this envelope as scrap, the reason that I left the envelope, it's obviously going to get cut out of this. And the reason I left it is because it actually gives me a nice handle. So I'm just going to hopefully get my gilding flakes, and then we can cut it out to try not to lose any. And we can cut this out to the size we actually want it to be. And I've just got a really old stiff stencil brush just to come in and take any of the excess off. There we go, all burnished and shiny and lovely. And my sticks too hadn't adhered really well to this envelope, but actually it works really well with the little bits of the craft showing through, and I've managed to gild one of my fingernails, in fact 2 of my fingernails as well. And this is just a little tip. If you're using glitters or powders or something like gilding flakes that does go everywhere, this is a piece of Swiffer cloth. So this is the stuff that you get for cleaning your floors. And it works really well just to run it over your panels as well. Right, so that more or less is our top panel complete. We just need to cut that out to, as I said, I'm going to go for 9 centimetres by 12 centimetres. Now, I'm feeling this, and because this, I think, unfortunately, isn't going to be quite thick enough for my puzzle pieces. I think these might be a bit flimsy, so I am just going to back this, and I'm fairly certain my trimmer will still cut through all the layers absolutely fine. I am going to back this and put it on something just a bit thicker. That's my puzzle ready to cut up. So now's the part where we've got some different dimensions. So we're going to for 1.5 centimetre squares, and for the measurements for this card, that means we're going to need an awful lot of 1 centimetre wide strips. So for the pieces that we're going to stick on the back of our puzzle pieces, and for the pieces that are going to be stuck down to the card, you need them all to be 1 centimetre. So because this is 9 centimetres wide, all of my strips are cut to 9 centimetres wide, and I've just pre-cut lots of them. So now I've just got my piece that I'm going to use as my back panel. This can be a piece of scrap. You're never going to see this other than in between our strips. So I'm going to cut this to 9 by 12. And as I've done for every other puzzle before, we need to mark our bottom piece. But this time, our pieces are 1.5 centimetres. So we need to go along and mark at 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9, 10.5. So our last one would be up to the 12 mark. And then all we're going to do is draw a line across at each of those. So our lines should all be 1.5 centimetres apart. This is 0.5 centimetre wide foam tape. It cannot be any wider than this for these measurements, or it will not work. You want to get that lined up, going across in the middle of that line as straight as you possibly can. If you were making your own foam tape strips at this point, so like I showed making them with the funky foam, if you were doing that, I would actually make them a little bit smaller. So obviously these are around 5mm wide. I would make them about 3 or 4mm wide, just to give you a bit more space. We need one at the top and one at the bottom, and I'm actually just going to slide it just a little bit off the edge. So I've just got a little bit more space in this gap here. So my foam tape for the top and the bottom, because mine is 5mm foam tape and I haven't got anything that's narrower, I've left it so it's hanging off the top there a bit, and I'm going to do the same at the bottom. All these pieces need to fit in these slots. So that one's, some of my pieces are slightly narrower. So I'm just checking that I've got a piece that's going to fit in every slot. And this is why my top and my bottom ones are hanging slightly off the edges. I think it will fit in there just nice. It's a little bit tight, that one. I think this one's going to be even tighter. Yeah. I'm just going to pull that off. So that's the other way to make your foam tape straight, by the way. You can use a spacer. So yeah, you can see my foam tape is hanging off the top and the bottom, but because this is going to be stuck on the back onto a thing, I'm just going to leave it hanging off and we will cover it probably with a frame later. So I'm not even going to trim it off at the moment. Then we need to do the same thing with our pieces and stick our foam tape in the centre of these. Exactly as we've done before, we've got our pieces that will slide in and out. Some are tighter than others. Let's see if we can. Yeah, that one's a bit better. So depends how accurately you've stuck your tape, how accurately you've cut your centimetre pieces, but everything does slide in and out. So we've got exactly as we've been doing before, but this time everything is 1 centimetre wide. Okay, so we're going to find the middle. So the centre piece is this one. We're going to peel the tape off, our centre one, and get one of our pieces and making sure these two are tight in there, get that in between those two pieces. So this is why I said there's no wiggle room. So this one's stuck down, this one can slide, and this one can slide. So making them 1.5 centimetres wide, there should be no real wiggle room. I'm making sure our pieces still slide in and out. We've got our base. So all of the pieces stuck down are 1 centimetre wide, and all of the pieces on the back of our T-pieces are also 1 centimetre wide. And my tape is 0.5 millimetre wide. So obviously, because I'm going for a 1.5 centimetre square puzzle, everything should fit fairly tight with not much wiggle room. And I've got an overhang at the top and the bottom, and I'm not going to worry about that too much for now. All I am going to do is just check that I've got everything sat square and just trim anything off the edge. And because I need my bottom edge to work to, I am going to now trim the bottom. I'm going to leave the top because there's not a lot of foam tape holding on there. So I'm actually going to leave the top piece because I only need one edge to square everything up to. So we're going to go with this bottom edge as what we're squaring everything to. So I hope that makes sense. Now all I need to do is cut this piece into 1.5 centimetre square. I always show you when things go horribly wrong. So because I'm using my trimmer rather than my guillotine, I've managed to pull a piece out. Can you see that? So that was obviously not stuck very well. So I've got the little pieces, which I've saved, and I will, in a minute, stick those back in there. So I've obviously got 2 leaves I need to rescue now, and I've also messed up a bit at the edges, but let's keep going. What I am going to do is flip this over and temporarily tape it back together and mark it so that I can cut it with my guillotine, because I think I'll ruin less that way. Right, so as we've done every other time before, I've got all my pieces back into the right order. Let's just slide those up out the way a second. And I have repaired all those little bits that had slid out or got caught when I cut it. So if you are going to do die cut inlay, I would recommend doing it on the bigger pieces. It gets quite fiddly at this size, but I'm really liking the look and how it's come out. So I've also just gone along and cut these all into 1.5 centimetre pieces, and like we've done every other time, I am starting in my bottom corner and getting my bottom corner in straight and square, hopefully. And I'm just going to go along as we've done every other time and get everything stuck nice and flat. All I'm going to do is take all the pieces out, and as I've done every other time, all these little overhangs, just give them a little haircut. So here we go, all complete. There's our puzzle, absolutely finished. I've still got my overhang at the top. I'm debating whether to cut it off. I think I might, because I think I like it as it is, and I think I'm going to put it on I'm thinking I might put this on a black card blank, because I've got some A6 black card blanks. So I think I've got enough at the top there that I can cut this off. So let's hold our breath and hope our foam tape stays intact down there. So I'm not going to put a frame around this. I think this is a Craft UK A6 card blank, and I could do one of two things. I could leave this like that, centered, or I could shove it up to the top. And this die set came with the thank you random pieces sticking to the tape. And let's see, would the thank you, actually it's dual purpose, it's thanks, so you can cut the S off, or so you can use it as thanks, or you can use it as thank you. So let's see, you know what, I think I'm just going to go with the thanks, because I would want to hang the U off the bottom and I wouldn't have space, so I think I'm just going to go with the thanks since I can. This is what I meant, where I've got this little bit of foam tape hanging off the top doesn't matter, because it's going to get stuck to the card anyway. So there we go, all finished. I would just probably come back and stick a white panel inside with greeting stamped on it, just so that there's somewhere to write on the inside, because that's the only problem with the black card blanks. I am happy with this, but I am going to say, if I was going to remake anything with these sized pieces, I would not do it with die cut inlay. I love the technique and I love how this has turned out, don't get me wrong, and it's worked really well, but it was fiddly. So if I had cut this to 2.5 centimetres or 1 inch squares, I would not have had as many little bits that could drop off the edges. I had to re-glue quite a lot of little edges. So can you see here, this bit goes across an edge, and it's so hard to know where things are going to fall. And if I'd done it with bigger squares, I wouldn't have had as many little edges. I might still have had bits fall off, but there wouldn't have been as many. So I love the die cut and inlay technique, but I don't think I would do it on the small sized pieces. The small sized pieces and the measurements all work fine, but I don't think it's the best technique. You're better sticking with something that's flatter. So stamping and inking, patterned paper, that you've not got so many small things that you can lose. But yeah, no, the dimensions work. So using all your strips at 1 centimetre and cutting your puzzle to 1.5 centimetres, if you've got 5mm 1/2 centimetre foam tape, that all works and everything fits. It's tight. You have to make sure that everything's a bit straighter, but it all works perfectly well with those measurements. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that and enjoyed the 2 different techniques that, you know, how to make the puzzle and how to do the die cut inlay. I'll link to a playlist that's got tons of other sliding puzzle cards in it. Lots of different techniques, different sizes. Do you think it's time for me to do some Christmas ones? Is it too early for Christmas, or shall we jump to Christmas now? If you could stick a comment down below, that'd be fantastic, if you think it's time for Christmas or not. Yeah, so if you like my content, subscription would be lovely. If you've already subscribed, if you want to find out when I publish new videos, notify, that would be great as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in another video. Bye for now.